Honestly believe if it was not for the management of the team, it was not for the directors, the club would have collapsed long before it started. But because maybe they have always fulfilled their promises and never failed to pay players on time, that is the package that brought us back into a setup where now we are saying we've got a chance to go forward. But if for once this club was not paid one salary, maybe that salary could have been equivalent to a point that we lost and that could have taken us out to the relegation zone, to an area where maybe we would never be able to come in. But now we've got a chance to put our foot forward and demand the place that we deserve. Finally, never elaborated on the points that he's talking about when he was counting. We're talking about the points that the goals that we have considered in the last 5 minutes of the match and cost us 2 points. And when we counted those points, if we could get those 2 points, since we got 1 point, we could have been 54. And you count a few losses, you lost against Celtics away, you never deserve to lose, but we slipped at a certain point, and not many youngsters failed us in that match again. Maybe to a certain extent we missed a lot of chances with Majoro, with Tangeni, but still I feel it's a match that we could have won. We would be talking a different story. But at times success is achieved from serious struggle and from a point where you never think will come back. And for the last time, thank you very much to the management for the support you have given. Maybe the whole support that you gave to the team is not worth the 29 points that you got. It's worth just 1 point that has saved the team from relegation. And that point alone is going to count maybe for a point towards winning something for the team. Thank you very much.
Physically, in the PSL, you will be very disappointed to know most of our players, the average fitness norms for the Premier League as South Africa is below the conditioning levels of the Germans ladies national team. And what does that say? And those norms, they are telling us there is something we are not doing right. There is so much that we are not doing right. Something that has been happening even in this club. At Arrows we managed to alleviate some of these things early enough, but we have not succeeded that much. Now all our teams in the PSL and you the media are happy about it. It's even called the off-season. And what does it mean to our football? It means now players must go home, spend the next 2 months or 1.5 months doing nothing, come back the following season with very big bellies, knowing very well it is going to be hard work. As pre-season starts, every player is willing to give his best. I don't want to lie. But the fitness conditioning levels are far below par. And when you start pre-season, maybe first week you are okay, second week you lose not less than 10% of your players with injuries because the load is too hard and players are starting from scratch. And our graph generally in South Africa is like this. You start from pre-season, you take your players up to this level, they go, fatigue start to creep in, you go to the off-season, we rest, you start from scratch. And what happens? The following season, you are starting from here up, down to here again. Because we have not used sports science enough in our country. We are not serious about this element of using science in the improvement of our players. And I was telling my players just now, you know, when I was shown the body of Alves and the body of Cristiano Ronaldo, the body of Didier Drogba, just to see in comparison with some of the players we have that I'm not going to mention that were shown, in the screen. It's like others are babies. You don't see any muscle definition in our players. You look at Cristiano, he's not one of the biggest players in Europe. Alves is a very small player, maybe smaller than Majoro. But if you were to look at his muscle definition, then you can see, but here, we are not as serious as other countries. But it's something that we have to work very hard on. And I'm happy that my players fully understand and they have improved in leaps and bounds. If I were to bring some of them here now, the so-called youngsters, and just to see the body of a youngster developing in front of you, you will be surprised. And very soon you will start talking about them. Thank you. For me to have the management and the communication side being held by people who are competent in their field of operations, because that makes them to understand what we are trying to do. But it's the way to go. But in other teams in the country, you still find the head coach wanting to work alone when other teams are working with 2 or 3 assistant coaches. But if you want to have a leadership that is still inferior, that does not want to be questioned, then you will always have one coach thinking he can change everything around in the team. Personally, I believe the science is very critical to take our game to the next level. If you can, in your own environments, just Google Omega Wave. It's a machine that was used by Portugal in the World Cup. Bafana used it a bit. Barcelona is using it. Manchester United is using it. Real Madrid is using it. Spartak Moscow is using it. Many other teams in the world. Now, with Omega Wave, you also stand a chance of knowing beforehand whether a player is going to perform well or not. From a physical point of view and from the central nervous system's excitement point of view, you can see beforehand whether this player is at the level that I want him to be in. And already, teams like Vets are ahead of us in that sense. And it becomes very imperative to work very hard towards getting our players to a level where, from the contracts they sign, there are punitive measures in terms of their conditioning. And no player will get away with murder. If you are a professional player, you are expected to cover a certain distance at a certain time in the blip test. When you come back from the off-season, when we do tests, you must never be outside 10% of that. Maybe away with 10% from that. You know very well what, even in your off-season, you've got a responsibility. The rugby players are doing it, the cricket players are doing it, and they're calling themselves professional. But soccer players, in the boots of their cars, in a rugby player, you will find this ugly-looking ball in the boot of a rugby player. But in soccer, if you can go and open, I'm not sure about it, you will never find a soccer ball. But it's more than 80% chances that you will find a cooler box, because it's always hot.